Ross, what's your view on red pill? I don't think I
A
asked you that before. Red pill.
red pill. Oh, okay. A lot of what red pill teaches, I agree with. I think it's great to point out the games women play and how they're fucked up and all the rest of it. But here are my challenges with red pill. Number one, it's a bigger set of 30,000 view. Let's look at it from a 30,000 view. I have problems with evolutionary psychology in general. It's a very weak science. Evolution is not. Physical evolution and the evolution of the species, that's science. Here's the problem with evolutionary psychology. First of all, behavior doesn't fossilize. There's no way to fossilize behavior. You can't look at it that way. So that's the first thing. Behavior doesn't fossilize. We don't know. We can only speculate how selectivity and mate selection worked back then. Number two, trying to extrapolate from animals to humans has some serious scientific flaws in it. So if you look and say, well, this is how it works with our closest animal relatives, apes and such forth, you may get into trouble doing that. The third thing I don't like is that red pill tends to deify men and demonize women. When you talk about sociopathy, narcissism, that kind of thing, those traits are not gender specific. Those are across the board. They may manifest and show up differently with a man than a woman, but there's no proof that narcissism classic narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder is defined in the DSM-5 or 4, whatever issue it is. I
Five.
don't 5. I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that's more prevalent in women than it is in men. It can show up in different ways.
So borderline's more prevalent in women, and sociopathy is more prevalent in men.
That may okay. There you go. Borderline. I understand borderline quite well. The only form of therapy effective for it is dialectical behavior therapy. I'm well familiar.
Yep.
Right. So that's one thing. I think maybe I have this wrong. So listen to my qualifying words. Maybe I have this wrong, but their definition of solipsism is incorrect. Solipsism has two classical definitions in philosophy. One, it's a theory of knowledge. It says the only thing we can be certain of is what's in our own mind. It doesn't say the only something that exists. It's just a theory of knowledge. It's a branch of epistemology. And now another form of solipsism is saying I am the only thing that exists in the universe, and the rest of the universe is just a projection of my mind. So
I think that's an accurate definition for how they describe women, though. I think that is the way solipsism is used in red pill.
Yes, I don't see any evidence that women literally believe that they're the only living creature that exists.
No, but they do think that their feelings are more real than objective reality. And from that, they're solipsistic. And they believe that you believe the same thing they believe because they believe it. In that case, that is solipsistic.
Okay, I don't know if that's solipsism or not. I do agree that they rank feelings higher than objective reality, but I could turn around and say that anyone who believes in Jesus is ranking their belief is really a feeling that something is true. I could say, I mean, any religious person of any gender believes their feelings are more important than
but that wouldn't be solipsistic because other people believe it too, and they believe it because other people believe it. So I mean, I understand what you're saying about putting your feelings above other things.
Sometimes, Sartain, and sometimes I'm telling you because I've talked to religious people. When I talk to religious people, I never ask them what they believe. I say, we can talk about that later. Tell me how you came to believe it. And about 50% will say, I had a direct experience where I felt the presence of the Holy Spirit. So they're more interested in what they felt individually. So that's my major concern with red pill. That's it.
So to answer what you're saying, red pill and evolutionary psychology are two different things. The kind of the merging of the two came mostly from Rollo. That concept of actually taking Lita Cosmides, Gad Saad, David Buss, Joffrey Wilson, Stephen Stewart Williams, Hector Garcia, those evolutionary psychologists, and taking their work and putting into red pill content, that came later. Most red pill content is trust me, bro. The actual scientific stuff is pretty rare. That's what I try to focus on. Going back to what you said before, evolutionary psychology is not because bonobos do it, humans do it. Evolutionary psychology is if we were to measure the behavior of every society on Earth, individual from one another, and in fact, including societies that have no radio, television, or film, what are the proclivities that we find that are common amongst human beings in all those societies? So for instance, in the 37 culture study Dr. Buss did, in all 37 cultures, women were more interested in men were procuring resources than the other way around, 2-to-1, and men were more interested in casual sex in every single one of these things than women were interested with men. So what does that mean? That means that those proclivities at some point during our ancestral past aided in survival. That's all it means. All evolutionary psychology means is that there are concepts that aided in survival during the Pleistocene epoch are the things that were passed on today. And because there is no selection pressure for humans anymore, you can be diabetic, live in a fucking trailer park, be extremely broke, have a bunch of medical disorders, and be in debt and still have numerous children because there's no selection pressure anymore. Those things are not weeded out of our psychology anymore. And so because of that, we still have the psychology of someone who lived 200,000 years ago. That's all evolutionary psychology is. And that's where the explanation comes from. But it's not specifically, like for instance, parental investment hypothesis. That's one that actually is evolutionary biology. That means in every two gender species, the gender that actually has more to lose or invest more in the raising of the child is the one that is the more selective. And we see it with seahorses and fish where the males carry the eggs, the women compete for them. But in pretty much every mammal, it is the men competing for women. We also see the dimorphic difference. Like for instance, elephant bull seals are about 6 to 10 times the size of the females because they compete with each other to the death for access to females, versus Homo sapien males are about 15% bigger than males, so than the females. So that's evolutionary biology. Evolutionary psychology is specifically what proclivities are in our firmware that aided in survival in our past, and then how do they affect us today? So jealousy, murder, things like that. That's where those things come from. But the studies don't come from about behavior being solid. Sure, behavior is always different. It's psychology. It's like, for instance, my ancestors did not like the smell of sulfur. I guarantee you they didn't. Ross, I don't have to go back in time. I guarantee you they did not enjoy the smell of sulfur. I guarantee you that my ancestors did not eat poop. I guarantee you my ancestors had a fear of heights. I guarantee you my ancestors had a fear of snakes. And I guarantee you my ancestors, if they were look at a symmetrical woman with nice skin and a nice hip to waist ratio and signs of youth, they would find her more attractive than they would find an older, more overweight woman. My ancestors would feel that way. And I don't need to like go back in time to know that. I just know that those proclivities aided in survival.
Sure. That's okay. That seems self-evident to me. That was not what I've seen presented. What I've seen presented is concepts like the alpha male, and they've extrapolated that.
So what I would do, Ross, is like watch evolutionary psychologists. They're not in the red pill. There's no evolutionary psychologists that are in the red pill. None. There's zero. Maybe Jeffrey Wilson because he fucks with fucking Tucker Max, but there's none of them. So what they do is they provide the work, and then red pill content creators then extrapolate from that work whatever they believe. And some stay close to the data, and some don't. And some don't stay close to the data at all. But yeah, the two things are not red pill and evolutionary psychology are not the same thing. Okay. Red pill is a derivative of evolutionary psychology, but there's a lot of trust me, bro, involved in that as well.
Good answer.
Yeah. Good opportunity to mention the alpha male thing as well, because me, Ross, and Michael, I think we all agree on like the insanity behind people just saying alpha male all the time. Such a fucking obsession with it.
Well, but the thing is, it means something in taxonomy. It means something in biology. An alpha male is a real thing. There's no way you can look at one gorilla that literally kills other gorillas in order to have access to a harem of women. That is what an alpha, but you need to think of the term alpha male as a placeholder, not an actual strict definition. This man is an alpha male. This man is a beta male. What you need to do instead is say, in this context, like for instance, at my birthday party, all those girls were there to see me. I am the alpha male contextually. If we left my birthday party, went into a club, and then all of a sudden a Calvin Harris starts playing, Calvin Harris now, the alphaness now shifts to him. Contextually, he is alpha to me. So there's alpha characteristics and beta ones, and they're contextual and they change over time. It's like holding a puff of smoke in your hands. Yeah.
And they change according to social settings. If on the way to the club, that club, a cop pulls you over, he's the alpha male. He's got the gun, the badge. He can get on the radio and get 100 other people to beat the shit out of you. He can shoot you and then cover it up. I've always said it's contextual.
Yes, contextual. Yeah. It's just the term is a placeholder, because if you don't use that placeholder, then things get very complicated. But the thing is, people find that concept offensive. And most people who find that concept offensive are men who do have beta traits and women who date men who have those beta traits. They don't like the fact that you're calling out the fact that their husband is fat and a loser, and she allows him to cuck. She cucks him. Like, for instance, they have an open relationship. I know Joffrey Wilson is like this, the professor. They have an open relationship. She has sex with other men. He accepts that behavior, and then therefore that concept is not alpha. They feel like it's a personal attack against them. Those are the people who generally have a problem with that term.